Growing up, reality was perceived by what we were taught in school and by the media. Fast forward 15 years though, with new information coming out daily, our perceptions have changed. Is what we were really taught just to keep us safe, or is something bigger hidden? This is Truth Disorder.
Boom.
Welcome to
We out here.
Truth Disorder. Growing up, a reality was perceived by what we were taught. We're 15 years old now. We're not 15 years old now, but over a course of 15 years, now we're older.
That's usually how it works.
But this is Truth Disorder.
Unless you're Baron Trump. Hey-o, time
Hey-o.
machine.
Have you seen that book?
like my briefcase.
Like the Baron Trump book is wild.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
Well, I was gonna do the intro, but then I just remember he's gonna plug the intro at the beginning. That's the same exact script, so let's not do that.
I'd read it, but I usually get distracted by the time I open the book. There isn't colors. I can't.
Right.
I'm an audible guy. I need to be driving and doing something else and washing dishes at the same time in order.
So ADHD, basically.
So bad. Superpower, they say, but I don't believe them.
Gary's got a deficit disorder. Gary doesn't pay attention.
Yeah, I
I
made
mean, I'm the
all
same
my
way,
kids
so-
watching a show.
Yeah.
Like, this is great.
It's like when I was setting up my home office and I'm like, okay, I need dual monitors because I can get so much work done. And then I was like, wait, I need a TV in here too. So now it's like, okay, I got the two monitors, then I got the TV in the background, and it's like, okay, we got ESPN FC on the TV in the background, we got YouTube playing over here, and my work's still back to one screen. Perfect. Perfect.
Amateur.
Yeah, when I was streaming, I have four
Yeah,
monitors,
same.
but I have two computers.
Did you
So
have
it
like
fed in.
were you in like the little globe thing that they sell nowadays? Have you seen that?
No, it's flat, actually.
It's flat. Everything is flat.
I took way too long to get that. I think. Oh my god. No, yeah, it was actually kind of awkward because one monitor would just be for the chat. And
Yeah.
then one monitor would just be for like the broadcasting software. Then one monitor would be for like Discord, and then one monitor would be for the game. And somehow I convinced myself that I needed all of those monitors.
No, you do.
What
That's
game are you
quality.
streaming?
You're producing yourself.
I did a lot.
He,
Yeah.
he will not say on open air.
So
No, I'll
Escape
say the
from
games.
Tarkov.
He'll say the
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
So,
Really?
So
Yeah.
they actually play similar games. I've had this conversation with both of them. They're about to have the hugest nerd hard-on for each other right now. So I'm just preemptively.
Nerd alert! No, I'm just-
I don't know if we can talk about Tarkov.
ahead,
right?
guys.
You got
We were
4,000
Dude,
hours.
Dude,
Yeah.
Tarkov's rough.
Yeah, it's great.
This is going to get so hot and heavy. We're going to start an OnlyFans after this.
No,
go ahead, guys.
I used to do beta work for Tom Clancy for the Rainbow Six Siege. I did Rocket League for the longest time, Overwatch. But one of my biggest things was called Twitch Sings, and it was an alpha playtest of a karaoke app that Twitch was bringing out. And that's what I think we talked about last week was like licenses, and carrying all those licenses is super expensive. So then that fell off. But yeah, I used to do a lot of stuff.
That's awesome. And Tarkov's a weird one to hear. Nobody even knows what that
Yeah.
game is. You talk about it outside of like the internet, and nobody knows. So.
Yeah, it's super
Interesting.
intense,
is.
and it's a really big like risk versus reward game. But then you get hacked, and you're like, "Fuck this, I'm done."
Yeah,
No,
I don't understand why anybody does that to them. So I got a lot of friends that play Tarkov, and I'm like, you just invested months of your life into this game and died.
Yeah. I've got
And it's
4,000
gone.
hours now with that thing.
And then you die.
Yeah.
Dang, I thought I was cool with Candy Crush.
Yeah,
I'm
just-
like, what the hell?
Just go drive drunk.
Yeah. It feels the same. It feels the
They're
same.
like, sit down, young one.
Actually, the second one's more fun.
Yeah, or just go to Mist on 1604 and get roofied.
I mean, whatever happened to like Call of Duty? Do people still play Call of Duty?
Like 14-year-olds.
Like 14-year-olds?
14-year-olds, yeah,
Okay.
mostly.
It got to the point I think for me where I was like, I didn't have enough like Adderall to
Yeah.
take to where I
Yeah.
could focus hard enough. Because it's like you see like top plays from Call of Duty, and it's like they're like slide, in, dead. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell is going on? I don't have enough time for this in my life. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm not sweaty enough.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. Doesn't make any sense.
Did you hear about those Minecraft servers that started coming out? Well, it's been around for a while that were actually like having this really inappropriate stuff within those servers, like actual pedo stuff and like yeah, like legitimately. Tom's like, what the fuck? Like legitimate.
Isn't that called Roblox?
Not
Yeah.
Roblox.
actually
Roblox
is
is
Roblox.
Roblox. Sorry,
Yeah.
Minecraft.
There's
Sorry,
a
Minecraft.
huge-
It's
Sorry,
Roblox.
Minecraft.
Sorry,
There's a
Minecraft.
huge
You guys are
lawsuit
good.
on it too.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, they build like Roblox servers, and there's like pedo stuff and
Yeah.
like really taboo, just like messed up dark side.
Yeah,
dark
there were
web
members of
videos.
the mod and admin team. Ted, please don't sue me if that's incorrect. That were part of that as well.
Yeah.
And the company was protecting them too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's a huge problem.
It's wild, man.
Don't let your kids
Don't
on the
let your
internet.
kids
Well,
play-
that was
yeah,
a
for real.
TikTok challenge or a TikTok trend was like there was a bunch of like parents opening up random checks from Roblox or whoever built Roblox. Like I forget the parent company name. But they're opening it and they're like, what? $600 back? And it was because of a whole lawsuit and stuff.
Nice.
Oh, that was for sure like Fortnite too.
Fortnite
had
was
a-
bad, yeah.
Was it the addiction side of it, or
I think
what-
it was
there something
because kids like it was a skins thing. So a lot of people were buying skins and like the pricing of it was being traded. And it was like so a lot of the Fortnite money went back to the people who have bought skins before. So
else? Wow.
Okay.
I'm sad to know that my wife definitely paid for
I didn't
Fortnite
I
skins.
didn't get my check.
Again, though, Fortnite was one of those things where it's like you had to be on crack to follow it because like
Yeah.
you see the world champions, they're like build here, build here, build here, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
what?
What was the name of the guy that's like the *1 streamer? I forget his name. Blue hair.
Ninja?
You're thinking of Ninja, but
Yeah.
he fell off super
definitely
hard.
fell off.
Yeah, he got cringe. It's unfortunate. Yeah, he did this New Year. That was like the apex. He did the New Year's Eve event, and it was
Yeah.
just really weird.
Yeah.
Online stuff doesn't translate well to real
No.
life.
No,
you
it
know?
doesn't.
It just doesn't.
Oh, or maybe it kind of does, because I know if I'm around somebody long enough, I'm just like,
Yeah.
like even my wife, I'm like, yeah, just go watch your book.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna
I
go
think
over
the
here.
problem is too when somebody tries
Just
to make
kidding.
the jump
Love you,
from
babe.
like streaming a game to jumping into real life.
Yeah.
They're entertaining because of the game, and they're entertaining because of the things that happens around the game.
But how can you prolong that?
You can't.
You can't sustain that.
You can't sustain it. No, I mean, look at PewDiePie for example. Like he was really big on the internet, and now he doesn't really do as much content. He lives
Yeah.
in Japan with his wife and his now 2 kids.
Smart.
He made the right exit. A lot of people just get stuck in the trap. They're on the hamster wheel for the rest of their lives
Yeah.
because they peaked and they didn't realize it.
Until you transform into something like podcast. And I think that's what's the beauty of podcasting is like when you bring in that fresh person and their perspective and you commingle that with your own perspectives, it really creates fresh content for people, you know? So that's something that we're going to definitely be looking into. I think it's really cool because we can actually include our SOIs and then bring on an interesting guest to, you know, further bring some value to our audience. So
The
that's
round table.
That's going to be fun.
But it's not round. It's
Yeah, no,
rectangular.
the one I think the biggest streamer right now. I mean, obviously you can't discount anybody in Asia because they're streaming to like or even Mexico. They're streaming to like million people.
Really?
Yeah,
But
oh,
a lot of
yeah.
people,
Oh yeah.
a lot of YouTubers are actually killing streaming nowadays.
I wouldn't
Not
doubt
like
it.
not like in a good way, but in a bad way, right? Like it was never really saturated,
Right.
at first,
Right.
and now it's becoming super saturated because everybody and their mother is on Twitch.
There's
Right,
hacking.
like,
There's a lot of hacking
What-
going on,
I
too.
mean,
that
what's
people are just
the
like,
YouTuber kid, the kid that's like stuck up or stubborn and goes and does like Jack Doherty?
Oh God.
oh, I don't
Yeah,
even know who that
exactly.
is.
This guy,
Exactly.
dude.
And he's on Twitch.
It's so bad.
Why?
He
'Cause
twitches.
he's just so annoying. Jack Doherty.
Doherty,
And
there
he's
you
like
go.
this young kid. I don't know how he got famous, but he'll go around and just be just a nuisance to people. And it's like, how is this even funny?
He was one of the biggest nuisance streamers. I think he actually created the genre when you think
Yeah,
about it.
probably.
But he's on Twitch and he's streaming and he
Oh,
streams
dude,
like him and his girl in the
Look at
apartment or whatever.
15 million followers.
Yeah, I don't even like. I see just that thumbnail, and I don't even want to watch it because of his face.
He's got the Zoomer broccoli haircut too,
He's got
dude.
the
You gotta love
douchey
that.
chain and the Mahomes haircut.
Yeah.
reverse Mahomes.
But the sad part is
Coming over
is
that.
a lot of youth look up to this kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's who's watching him. It's like 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really what it is.
But they're trying to replicate what he did.
And what's interesting is so Fusi was even a bigger one when I was younger, and Fusi is kind of similar to his style. He's super. Ice Poseidon was another one that was really big, but it was like he was an IRL streamer and would always get swatted, but he'd be getting swatted on the streets as he's walking.
Right.
And you just have random cops coming up to him and thinking that he's got like a pew pew or like a.
Well, you know who has a pew pew? Demolition Ranch.
Hold on. This guy reminds me of somebody I really want to punch in the face when they turn 18.
I think he's already 18.
Yeah.
But good luck getting to him because he has like some of the biggest bodyguards you've
Security
ever
guard,
seen.
You know,
actually crazy.
You know who's number one on my punch in the face list when they turn 18?
I hope it's not me with that.
No, you're not 18. Baby Gronk.
Baby Gronk. Oh,
That whole thing is so weird.
Isn't
It's
it?
such a weird situation.
so the
have you-
dad is like publicly parading his son around as
Yeah.
He's like
Well-
pretend smacking like Hooters girls on the ass, and they're just, yeah, Baby Gronk thinks he can get a grown up, and it's just so weird.
It's even more interesting to see all the adults that thought they could make it on the internet, couldn't make it, then have children, and then try and do it again with their kids.
I mean, that's historically accurate from the beginning of time.
It's disgusting and it's gross.
it's every parent.
Do you know who
looking-
Baby Gronk is, Dom? Fuck, dude, you ready for this?
You ready to be mind blown?
Dude,
Wait, before you show him, explain how he got his name.
because his dad wanted him to basically be Gronk, and so he put him in football, and he just started pumping him out.
Gronkowski.
Rob Gronkowski from
New England
from the New
Patriots,
England
tight
Patriots.
end.
Just one of the best tight ends of all time.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah, he's really good at having a tight end.
He won like 3 or 4 Super Bowls with Tom
Yeah.
Brady. Like
Yeah. Well, and Tom Brady, though, you guys ever see the video where Tom Brady, like, he's on a massage table, he's getting a massage, and then his son comes
His son
in and
kisses him in the mouth,
and then he's like,
and Tom Brady's like,
not
yeah,
enough.
He's
He's like,
straight
come
up,
back,
not
try
enough. Come
again.
back. It is the worst thing. I saw
fucking
Bert
worst
Kreischer
thing
talking
I've
about this
ever
shit.
Wait,
I was like, what is going on in the Brady household? Literally, he's like getting a massage, just chilling, in his perfect state.
is it his inner thigh?
No.
No.
Tom Brady's not a rock climber.
That's for looking, not for kissing. Come on, everybody.
So he's getting a massage, and then his son comes in, and his son's like, "Dad, can I get some ice cream or something? Whatever
he's like-
kid's
he's like,
asking
"Yeah,
for."
get some ice cream,
and
dude."
Tom Brady's like, "Yeah, but you got to give me some love or something." And very fatherly, like it's not like he said it like creepy. And then his dad his son comes, kisses him in the mouth, and then it's like a
was like a
second too
peck.
long. It's a second.
The first
too
one was a peck. The next one was like 10 seconds too long.
A peck is a second too long to kiss a kid in the mouth, honestly. So like, and he like walks away, and he's like, "That's not enough." And the kid turns around, and he just like hobbles over and just like, dude, what?
We all know too much about each other nowadays.
I think we
It's
need
a
to
huge
research
problem.
that and throw that into Padlet into the red pill. Speaking of which, if you want access to our brainstorm map, head over to truthddisorder.com, click subscribe,
Take the red pill.
and take the red pill.
Take the red pill. Don't believe it, but take the red pill. The point of the red pill is that you ask questions. Even if it seems completely just ridiculous, just ask questions. Because even if something seems completely true, point being, ask questions. Keep asking questions. That is the point of the red pill. Never stop asking questions. That's the point of science. When they said the science was settled, that was a lie, because the point of science is that it's never settled. So apply that to your life. Science.
So it's funny that you bring that up, because questioning everything was what we were taught going through computer science courses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like as I was going through my educational courses, computer science, we took a discrepancy class. And in discrepancy, if you've ever seen Terrence Howard, he talks about mathematical fallacies. And
He is surprisingly bright, by the way.
he is a super intelligent person, and people have overlooked his intelligence for years and laughed at him. But the things that he's actually questioning are things that you learn in these discrepancy classes that you take for computer science and software engineering, because as a software engineer, you have to understand the logical expressions of mathematical computing, right? You have to understand binary. You have to understand like some
That's hard enough
like
as it is.
there's
apparently.
so much math that you have to do as an actual software engineer, and understand that you are taught to equate for those mathematical fallacies because they could cause disruptions within your code. And it's funny, I was explaining this to my neighbor, and they're like, "Gosh, you're such a fucking nerd." And then I'm like, all right, here, you want to watch somebody more entertaining than me? Here's a Terrence Howard video.
Yeah, there you go.
Have him explain to you why 1 × 1 cannot equal 1.
Wait, that's a thing?
Thing.
That's what Terrence Howard
Yeah.
expresses.
His argument is that to multiply means to
Increase.
increase. If you are simply multiplying a number by itself, and it's not increasing, and they teach you this in discrepancy courses, that you're breaking the logical expression of a mathematical function.
So 1 times 1 is an impossible expression. Is what you're saying.
I think it's just a semantics question.
It's a discrepancy in mathematical function.
I think it's a semantics question because you could also describe multiplication by saying you have X amount of sets of Y in each set. So if you have one set of 1, you have 1.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, if you're explaining it to somebody, it's like, hey, I made $100,000 last year. Next year, I'm gonna times that by 1.
So you're gonna make the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't multiply, right? You never multiply.
I'm gonna multiply that times 1.
Like I want to multiply. I'm gonna 1x my. I'm gonna 1x my income.
That's how realtors talk.
No, they say 10. They say 10 and then they do 1.
And then they set
like
the bar
glorify it,
here.
right? Like I'm gonna 1x what everything I did last week. I'm gonna freaking murder the game.
I mean, I love real estate agents. There's 3 of us here at the table. But it's 4.
Yeah.
4. Well, I forget. You know,
I'm a secret agent.
you haven't
okay?
closed the deal.
That's
We'll
fine.
get it.
Yeah, secret agent. I've sent them.
But it's I find it pretty comical because having run a team and recruited agents, I always often say like I'm not just a money pit, right? Like I'm not a bank. I'm not an ATM, because what happens so often with agents is you give them their first deal, they get that little taste of commission, and they go,
taste of blood.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I made X amount of dollars last month. I don't need to work for the next 2 or 3 months. And then they come knocking like, hey man, I need a deal. I'm starving, bro. Like mortgage is coming up. Like poor me. I'm like, dude, had you just stayed focused and continue to try to build those relationships off that one deal, you'd have been in a better place. But instead, you try to treat me as like a money, like an ATM, basically.
Yep.
And it's not an on and off switch. It's not an on and off funnel. It's something you got to continuously groom and work and nurture to continuously have that income coming in.
I would have a condition on your employment agreement. I would say, I'll give you deals. I'm basically your dad.
Yeah.
If I'm giving you deals, so you're gonna have to call me daddy.
Well, I mean, it got to the point where in our team agreement, there are actually written, I have rules and performance rules that they have to meet. If they don't meet it, they're basically gone.
You have to. And I mean, I've been in a lot of teams and a lot of single agent brokerages where the leads aflow, but nobody ever calls them. You know, I mean, and I've seen that very recently as well. It's the weirdest thing. You hand over platinum tier leads, they don't call them, and they're asking you, well, where are the deals at? It's like they're in your inbox, but you never call them.
They're in your database.
It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
You have to pick up the phone and call.
Yep.
And I don't know what that fear or that mentality or mindset is. Like agents, like if you're going to get into real estate, you need to be a people person. You need to be able to go and have conversations.
I think a lot of people are scared to get started because they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
They know what they need to do, but they don't know what to say, and then they allow that fear to stop them, and then the laziness sets in. Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't make any calls yesterday. Why would I make a call today? Tom Ferry talks a lot about that. It's the fear of the phone.
I think a big part of it is a fear of rejection as well, especially with the negative side of real estate. You don't want to bother somebody, and so you're calling, even if they're. And I had to convince myself of the same thing. Is like when I'm getting a lead in, I'm like, oh well, I have to convince myself they want something from me. So why am I not calling?
Yeah.
Early on, I was like, I don't want to get on the phone call because I'm scared they're going to say no to me. But maybe because I don't know a lot yet.
Yeah.
But as I progressed, I was like, wait, why was I not calling more?
You know how to be a person.
Yeah.
Just be a person on the phone.
Well, and a lot of like coaches train on that, like, because I mean, historically, like coaches leading up until like the present have taught to like be very salesy. Right, they've taught this approach of like
always be closing,
always be closing, always be closing. Whereas like we should be trying to ask or offer assistance and help, right?
Well,
like
and
your
the
value
biggest
prop is your service. Your value prop is your knowledge, your background, your everything that you've done in your career, not like, hey, I saw you sign up on my website.
Well, and the value prop is so secondary too. I think the primary thing is it's like why did they come to the website in the first place?
Right.
Like Gary, when you came in, I teach all the agents who come to our team this. You've got to ask about the motivation. You find out why they're moving. And then you don't stop there. That's where everybody asks, why are you moving? But you got to find out what's actually in it for them. You got to go to the second layer, which is what's the benefit. Then the third layer, which is the importance. And once you're able to get to the importance layer, you have the perfect script for everything that comes up, whether you're in the inspection and they don't want to move forward, whether they see the right house and they just aren't sure, they don't really want to talk to your lender. Hey, well, we talked about it. Your motivation is X so that you can get Y in order to do Z. If we can get that done for you and I can get you Z as soon as possible, why wouldn't you want to talk to my lender?
Yeah.
And when you frame it like that, the objections just melt away.
Right.
But people don't think about it like that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Instead of getting the clarity, they're always worried about the end goal.
Yes, they're thinking about them, but it's about the client.
Yeah.
You're
They're
just
thinking about that check.
You're an amorphous
Yeah,
voice.
yeah.
You're an amorphous voice on the other end of the phone. You've got to get inside their dreams because they're only thinking about them. And guess what? We're in the service industry. That's how you got to be thinking too.
That's true. I think a hard fact also is that a lot of folks get into real estate because they just couldn't be good employees. And they, I'm sorry.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
you gotta
It's a hard
absolutely
fact. You know what I'm
agree.
saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's
I
hard.
want my own schedule.
I want to. I want to be able to do what I want when I want to do, and like whether you are, you're not the breadwinner, and you're just kind of doing it for fun, for a little extra play money, or whatever. Like some of the folks that I've seen be very successful agents, they just worked. They just found someone to hold them accountable. I learned this when I was working at Succession. Mandy, like she told me something that I had no idea that this is how this works, not just in real estate, but in business. If you're making $0 a month, get a coach that's making $1,000 a month, maybe, right? $5,000 a month. When you're making $5,000 a month, get a coach that's making $10,000 a month. And then she started explaining this tiered effort where, she's in the millions and she's got people that are making tens of millions of dollars still coaching her. Imagine being a millionaire and still having a coach so that you can scale up. I can't even fathom that, because honestly, you put me in 5 million, I'm going off grid and I think I'm good. Straight up. But everybody has different goals. At the end of the day, you have to be accountable to yourself. And a lot of folks, they get into real estate because they just don't want to be accountable to anybody, including themselves. Right. And then so and we see that with teams all the time.
Yeah.
We see that with teams all the time. And then these teams that start teams, and then they have, they move really fast to start the teams, and they get a bunch of agents under them, and then it flops because you're in a rush and you're not really able to vet through who is actually going to work and be actually a good employee.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you've got to hire quick and fire quicker.
Right.
That's really what it is. And I mean, the team that I'm on right now, my team lead, the number one thing is you meet her. She's beautiful. She's kind of ditzy. She's silly. But that girl's up generally about 4:30 to 5 a.m.
Yeah,
she's in the gym. She's done at 7 a.m. I have her calendar on my computer. She is on it all day long.
Yeah, she's
at
a dog,
appointments,
man.
making
She's
calls,
a dog.
making it happen.
Yeah, she's a grinder, bro. Like she's
Success is a habit.
like a licensed therapist. I had no like you said ditzy. It's funny because she jokes about it, and I think that's that's kind of like her persona. But like when you actually have a real heart-to-heart conversation with her, she starts getting into the psychology of things, and she actually is very bright. So like to have that persona
Intensely so, really.
Right, to have that persona as a brand that attracts the people, and then be able to go 10 steps ahead when you're actually connecting with people, right? Dude, that's all you need. Just
and I think
find your strength, find your value.
I think that's where a lot of agents miss their mark. Is they get into it for either A, the wrong reasons, or B, they don't have the right mindset when they start, and they usually fail. I think the statistics like 90% of agents,
87%
somewhere
after 2
around,
years, they sell one or no homes.
right, and they're kind of just flop.
Yeah.
I've looked at my real estate business as like a relationship builder more than, hey, I'm going to go generate a ton of leads and close all these leads, right? Like I'm going to go call a bunch of people, and that's what I'm going to do. Like I historically built my business from maybe about 5 years ago, like through that standpoint, where when I first got into it, it was a little different story. It was like, dude, I'm hungry. Like I'm going to go out, started dialing expireds, ended up landing a small builder in Tri-Cities, Washington. He gave me like $10 million a year in listings, and just basically leveraged those to go and meet more people, right? Like I hate saying it, but open houses, I can, shake hands, exchange laughs, get in front of people, and offer them a service, right?
And a lot of folks, it surprises me that folks don't really lean into the new construction aspect, because quite honestly, to me, it really seems like a cheat code to get business.
It is.
Honestly, it really, like you have the connection, you send them a search from New Home Buddy, and then you connect them to the rep, and then the rep just kind of takes it from there. You just have to be on top of it and not get complacent and make sure that the rep is not going to screw them over.
Right.
That's it.
And I do the transaction management for our team. There is nothing in this world that I like working more than a new build home contract, because everything just happens.
Yeah.
It's so simple. It's so easy, because the rep has a sales goal too. They have a much more strict sales goal than the agent.
Yep.
They're not going to let it fall apart unless they're a company that starts with the L. I'm not going to talk about them.
Followed by an E.
ends with an R.
No, I was gonna-
They're on New Home Buddy.
Yeah.
And they make an incredible product at an incredible price.
No, I was going to mention what you were talking about as far as like a service, first of all, because a lot of people don't think about it as a service industry. They think about it as a sales industry, and like, I'm a salesman. I hate when people are like, oh God, you remember you're a salesman. And I'm like, I'm not though. I provide a service. And the moment I stop providing a service and I forget that I'm not, I don't run myself, or I don't own my own business. The person that owns the business is my client at that time, because they're my boss. And we forget that a lot. And there's so many people out there. And I think that that's why a lot of people fail, is because they forget that your boss is your client.
Yeah, they
and
can't
you work for them.
and they don't want to have a boss to begin with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I
it falls
remember
apart.
one of the first phone calls, like changing my mindset, right? Because I used to be salesy, right? Like, oh, hey, like I can help you sell your home, blah, blah, blah. Like the whole sales pitch, like the Tom Ferry, the Brian Buffini sales pitches, right? I remember the first call that I ever made where I changed that perspective instead of trying to sell them my service. And I just said, the homeowner's name, we'll use John. I was like, hey, John, what can I do for you today, right? Like, how can I help you? I saw your home was on the market for X amount of days. Like, what do you want to do with it? Like, what's your next step? And then just literally sat back and listened for 10 minutes of a homeowner go, well, I think we were overpriced. The agent just didn't do their job. Like, they always throw the agent under the bus.
And if you're a realtor listening to this right now, that was the thing. It's
Yeah.
the shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Just shut up and listen.
Time of possession is
Yeah.
super important.
They're going to tell you everything you need to know. You need to know two things. One, when to ask the right questions. Two, when to close your mouth.
Yeah.
That's it. They'll tell you everything you need to know. And they're going to think at the end of it, wow, that's the first time I got a sentence out talking to a realtor in 10 years.
Yeah, but I mean, it literally was a 10-minute, like, the agent's marketing just was, maybe not that great. I didn't have a sign in my yard for 10 days. Like, so that's what we call SA Post Pros. They'll get their sign in your yard.
Shameless plug
Shameless plug.
in the ground.
And look, they're telling you all the things that you need to do differently. Isn't that crazy?
And then you get all of that and you go, well, what if I could help you sell your home here in the next 30 days? Have a sign in your yard tomorrow. Get professional photography done. Get professional videography done. Get all the marketing ads done right.
Is that what you're looking for in the next agent who represents you?
Like, would that help you get your home sold?
Yes, perfect. What time are you available? I have 10 a.m. and I have 2 p.m.
Exactly.
So easy.
I was blown away. I was like, just, because I was so like, I was coached and trained to be like, hey, I can get your home sold. Your past agent probably just didn't do this or this. Like, I have a different strategy. And the reality is, like, most of these homeowners understand the sales pitch now. Like, they know, like, every agent is doing the same thing. Every agent's doing the digital ads. They're doing the videos. They're doing the photography. Except for some agents here in San Antonio. I have seen your photos on Sayboard. Not going to throw your name out there. Stop using your iPhone and your Android. But it's like we're all doing the same thing, if not similar. We just all have different, like, services, right? Like, I do clear to clutter packages. Like, hey, I'm going to drop off 10 large boxes, 10 medium boxes, 10 small boxes, 10 pounds of packing paper, 2 rolls of tape. Start clearing the stuff up from my photographer, right? Like, everybody just might have some minute changes in what their, like, service looks like, but ultimately we're doing the same thing.
I think another thing, too, that realtors need to kind of get through their head is a lot of people, and I know obviously compensation is not fixed. There's no governing body in the state of Texas or in the federal government that fixes compensation. Compensation is always a negotiation between you and your listing agent and the buyer's agent who represents the buyer on your home. However, there are a lot of really great agents like Tom Toole with the Tom Ferry organization, for example, who have these graduated systems where they say 5, 6, 7. I'll do it for 5. I'll do this. I'll do it for 6. I'll do it for that. I'll do it for 7. I'll do all this extra.
Yeah.
The point is, you've got to understand what you're bringing to the table. The client's going to tell you what they want out of that package, and then when you sit down, you're going to custom tailor the close, and you're not going to spend a lot of time closing because they're going to say yes because you already met them where they were. But it all starts with asking the right questions. Why are you moving? What's important to you? What's the benefit? And when is it going to happen? and then just bringing the package to them.
Right.
Giggity.
Yeah.
People make it too complicated.
I actually have a PDF, like a spreadsheet on this with different packages. Like, you pay, like, here's X percent. You're going to get my landscapers. You're going to, like, bi-weekly, they're going to come cut your grass. I'm going to make sure you're not having to maintain anything. You're going to have home cleaners come in bi-weekly, like, everything. And they're like, I want that. Most people are like, I want that. Like,
Absolutely.
You're now just making this stress free. Like, this is almost too easy. I'm just going to have to sign on the dotted line when it's time to sign, and we're good to go.
Well, and it's probably going to sell, which means you're not going to be paying for the services for long, which they're going to be happy about.
Right.
And you're going to be happy about. That's it. It's just you're solving a problem.
Exactly.
I think people get it twisted. They don't realize that.
They don't understand it. They don't to build that value in their services and themselves.
Well, it's just like you said, they overcomplicate it.
Exactly.
It's easy to overcomplicate it.
It is
really
very
is.
easy.
It really is.
So, Gary, what about Big Baby Gronk?
Oh, I was gonna say the Boom Kid. Have you ever seen that?
Ooh, the
the
Boom.
Costco. Those the Costco guys.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like, I'm gonna give this hot dog 5 boom, 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 and it's dude, it's so bad.
The
I got to say,
Boom
You gotta
Kid.
type in the Costco guys. That's what it
This
is.
is some random
It's
guy.
so
The crazy thing about that is when you look at their behind the scenes,
It's-
I
it's
admire.
awkward.
Well, no, but I admire the directorial prowess of
from the
the
dad?
adult.
Eating
Yeah.
what the Costco guys eat from Costco for the whole day.
Bro, dude, it's so.
I've seen this guy. I didn't know what his name was.
Cause he goes.
That's the Rizzler.
The Rizzler.
The Rizzler. The more portly one of the two.
That poor kid.
Yes.
That poor kid.
Clearly suffering from childhood obesity, which can lead to chronic diseases in the future. But because the Rizzler's entire online personality is actually because of his obese look, he really has to ask himself, is his health that important to him? Because if the money can't mean more to him, he might as well just stay obese. The Costco guys are destroying the Rizzler's life.
I bet the Rizzler doesn't mind at all, dude. I bet he doesn't care at all for a second.
Dang.
Yeah. So apparently,
this
so
one?
the dad.
He's just random people.
The dad was like, that's the dad right there to the
The
left.
dad's fit, and the
Yeah.
poor kid's over here like down in this.
But he tried to be famous a while ago on YouTube.
AJ and Big Justice.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Channel.
AJ and Big Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah. He tried to be famous a while ago and he couldn't get famous, and so he started doing the Costco reviews.
Of course we go shopping while eating chicken bake. We're Costco guys. Of course we have to try the new double chunk chocolate cookie. We're Costco guys. Of course we have to try out the furniture. We're Costco guys. Of course we work out with the tires.
Why the heck would anybody work out with tires?
We're Costco guys. Of course we look at every TV in the place every time we come in. We're Costco guys. What the heck is this thing?
Okay, how are we
Wow.
not famous yet?
As a marketer, I appreciate what they're doing because I bet they
Yeah.
have such a sweet deal with Costco.
Yeah.
I bet
Oh, yeah.
Costco loves those two, especially the
Oh,
Rizzler.
sure. They get that free publicity.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was going to touch on the one of the video that you clicked on. You can notice that a lot of the famous videos, or the ones that go uber viral, are the guys that are just screaming at the screen. They're like, "Can you imagine the Costco guys went out and did this?" And
High
oh
energy.
Yeah, it's just like immediately,
Yeah.
immediate high energy because it hits your
What's the-
brain.
It's the
Well,
hook.
and they're advertising those videos to children because that's what appeals
Yeah.
to like young boys,
Yeah.
like between the ages of 7 to like probably about
Right.
14. They love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They either gotta be screaming or you gotta have a super, super like wicked hook.
Yeah.
Wicked hook.
I'm not impressed.
Gary's gonna go home and do some
Gary's
homework.
like,
and
you know what? I know what'll make us famous. Did you hear that the CIA
Oh fuck.
has came out and publicly said that they were actually doing some searches for the Ark of the Covenant?
Word?
They used a telepath, or I forget the exact name.
Remote viewer.
They used a remote viewer to actually try and find where the Ark of the Covenant is. And people are freaking out right now. You know what the Ark of the
When did
Covenant
this
is,
so
happen?
for
right?
those who don't know what the Ark of the Covenant is,
Oh, you.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Right. Ark of the Covenant was something that God instructed the Israelites, or Moses and the Israelites, to build and carry into the Promised Land, and then they carried it and then
It contained
God disallowed the Israelites of that generation to get into the promised land. And I think it got lost in Babylon. Where I can't remember.
I don't exactly remember. I know that the entire point of the ark is the proof of their covenant with God. That's it.
So this is the Ark of the Covenant, also known as the Ark of the Testimony, is a sacred gold cover wooden chest described in the Bible as containing the 10 Commandments and other relics, and was a central symbol of Israelites'
The Israelites.
faith in God's presence. I see Charles on there.
Almost
There's my
got it.
ADHD. I'm like,
I'm sorry, I need to stop clicking on it. Here, we go to the
You're
bottom.
good.
The
I
Ark
was
of the
watching it like
Covenant
jump up and down, and I'm like, oh.
is believed to have disappeared from historical records after the Babylonian sack of Jerusalem in 586 BC, with no reliable records of its whereabouts after that time. So did the remote viewers actually pinpoint a location? Was that something?
So the declassified CIA documents claim that the mystical Ark of the Covenant was located by a psychic decades ago in the Middle East as part of one of the intelligence agency's experimental secret projects in the 1980s. According to Jewish and Christian tradition, the gold-plated wooden chest housed the 2 tablets bearing the 10 Commandments, which God in theology gave to Moses between the 13th and 16th centuries BC.
Mm-hmm.
There's a video on it.
So why is the CIA looking for this?
Probably.
Oh, did I just ask the right question?
Probably to harness the power of God.
Either to harness it, to find
But
it,
I feel like
to store it.
God wouldn't allow that.
I don't know. You know,
The part that always throws me with remote viewing is that when you do, somebody who isn't me did them, a lot of psychedelic substances, you get that feeling of going somewhere else and seeing things that are hyper real. So it's hard to scientifically or even emotionally or even logically go to the level of, could you actually see reliably something else? Now, I know that there are different experiments that have been done where people have been able to, in randomized blind controlled studies, view something in another room that they didn't have knowledge of, but I'm always curious about the methodology and how that actually happened.
I mean, there's actually testimonies of people being able to remote view things in other countries that actually got verified too.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the weird thing. It's like, how much of it is actually happening inside your head? What's the actual mechanism? I think that's a really interesting question.
I
to
think it's
explore.
witchcraft, honestly.
do you think that the creator of The Simpsons could be a remote viewer?
They say he's a time traveler. That's the conspiracy. He's a time traveler. Mm-hmm.
It is weird the amount of things that have been predicted from it.
Right.
Accurately.
Like the Donald Trump presidency, there's a lot of wild
Basically, every episode is true.
But do you subscribe to the fact that if you're a time traveler and you come back, are you now in a new timeline, or is it the same timeline you traveled from? Because if you're in a new timeline, what's to say that now your presence there, because you're doubled up, right? Your presence there would create a new timeline. So how could you even say? Is it just a crapshoot? You're like throwing it out there, and this has happened in my timeline.
Yeah.
So
I think the explanation to that was the Mandela effect.
oh,
So that's like where that pretty much derived from.
Well, and Back to the Future kind of touched on that too.
Yeah.
Right? Like when Marty McFly goes back in and sees himself, and when he's time traveling, he ends up in another time, and he's kind of like altered his where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes the question, are you going back in the line, or are you jumping to a different parallel reality that has a
Right.
similar timeline?
right.
Yeah.
Out of an infinity multiverses.
You know what movie has always like boggled my mind? Interstellar.
Such
Like,
a good movie.
I always tell my wife.
I finally saw it for the first time 5 months ago.
Really?
Are you
What?
serious?
It's a true story.
What do you
Yeah,
mean?
I know. I was
Dude,
I was
we all
prepared.
hate you now.
I was prepared to be.
I'm out of here, guys. It's been great.
Right. And on that note, you've been.
I was prepared to be shamed for saying that. So
Is there a
But
reason
it's a good
why,
movie.
or
What'd you
like-
think? What'd you think when you finally saw it?
It was awesome. Another Hans Zimmer masterpiece as far as soundtracks are concerned.
Of course.
They just recently re-released it in IMAX to certain Santikos theaters, or just theaters in general, for the 10-year anniversary. So you missed it. You could have
Seen it.
Yeah, what
right.
an asshole.
Yeah, come on,
could you?
Gary.
Sorry, guys.
Grow up, dude.
So I know I'm trying, trying really hard.
Yeah, my question is about this whole thing. One, why is the CIA looking for this?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we funding this?
Yeah, because we're funding. That's the thing. We're funding it.
So
We're funding some dudes sitting around taking substances, seeing things. It sounds like.
I theorize that
The
they
CIA especially.
and they wanted to keep it hidden because their primary effort, it seems like, is to do anything and everything that goes against God. So if they keep that power hidden, they keep, things like that prove the reality that God is real, then they can further their agenda without people questioning, oh, God, like I need to watch TV and find out what's going on in the world in order to know the truth, instead of just like, well, just open your Bible.
Right.
Well, and
It's
I think that's part of why they've encouraged godlessness as well. They learned it from the KGB. Remember when the wall fell, we absorbed a whole bunch of the different agents, and then also their agents were defecting over to us for a long time. And I think they kind of realized with the Bolshevik tradition of replacing God with the state gives the bureaucrats a lot more power when all of a sudden you subsume the power of God. I think that makes total sense.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they would do it.
Well, and that's why they've removed it out of schools.
Yes.
They're trying to remove religion out of schools. They're trying to indoctrinate kids from understanding who Jesus is and what God is, especially knowing that like most households don't go to church anymore, right? Like they don't. They might do it online, but they don't go sit in the physical presence of a congregation. And
I heard about something last night where this preacher,
and he was like, close the doors.
Close the doors.
Close the doors.
There's like 1,000 people in there, and he's like, everybody needs to give $4 or something like
It was
that.
$20, and he was
20
like,
or $20.
because I think the church needed
40.
40,000.
Yeah. And so he just said, close the doors, and the ushers didn't close the doors. And he was like, I said, close the doors.
I saw that. And he held everybody hostage, basically.
So, I
until
mean,
they-
that's a good reason. Like, a lot of people, dude, honestly, man, like, I feel like up until, maybe a few years ago, most people are just, like, good people trying to do the right thing. And then, you get into these, like, churches where they're just not really, they lose sight of what goodness is. And then they're like, oh, that's what God's about?
Yeah.
Nah, bro. I'm
Well,
not going to do that.
And I'm a godly person. Like, I believe, I follow scripture. I will say I haven't sat in a church in probably a couple of years. But part of that has been that I have come across a lot of people that put on this front of God this, God that. Like, I go to church every Sunday. I go to all these, these counseling courses, and we do all this, and I'm part of a men's group. And a lot of those people that I've come across have come out to be like not who they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's another thing that you learn from the word too, and by being in a church community that has solid people in it, is that you train your muscle of discernment. And that is a huge deal, because especially now that which is, assumed to be the end days, and it says in the word that, in the end days there's going to be an age of great apostasy. And apostasy is the church pretending to be godly, but it is actually of this world instead.
Right.
So, with all that said, it's just like there's nothing new under the sun. We've been sacrificing babies as human beings at the altars of Baal and Moloch since the beginning of time. So like this is all happening. We just have a different bow on it, right? We have our, I've had folks that I respect very greatly send me clips of like Joel Osteen, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, like probably not the best person to be following.
Yeah, like this dude, like the prosperity gospel, really kind of just ignores the weight of sin and the importance of realizing how imperfect and sinful we truly are. And we need to acknowledge that in order to confront our pride and avoid being proud, because the greatest separator between ourselves within a community is pride.
Right.
I always thought it was weird because I grew up very proud, and I always thought it was like, well, what's wrong with being proud? I grew up Catholic, and I've had Catholic friends that, still say like, we need to be proud of this, we need to be proud of that. And I haven't found a single scripture yet that says that God loves the proud, or like appreciates pride, or that says pride is a good thing. If anything, it says God detests the proud. what was Lucifer's fall from heaven? Because he was proud, right? He wanted to be like God. He felt like he was as beautiful as God, and so he, got struck down. So like, yeah, the pride
which is also the story of Icarus as well, by the way. Another ancient ideal of trying to be too close to God, saying that you're godly. I think that's really what the problem is, and kind of what we were talking about earlier. People kind of get wrapped up in themselves, and they use God as a cloak to feel okay about the fact that they're wrapped up inside of themselves.
Right. But really, it just keeps them alone, and maybe most of those people want to be alone because they don't want to accept that responsibility or that accountability of what it takes to be in a community. It can be easier in the short run to be selfish, but in the long run, you die alone. I thought before I even started getting into the Word in 2021, I always thought it was interesting that like people hearing stories of old people that would die together on a deathbed. Like how interesting is that you like these folks that you've seen that have they're just so in love and they just go snap of a finger together into heaven. Like that in alone to me is an absolute miracle. Right. And so I feel like if we treated each other in a church community or just a community in general with that same mindset, we can grow closer. But it's just easier in the short run to be proud and to feel like you're better than somebody, to actually not have to like someone or to actually forgive somebody, because they're not like us and whatnot. So
I think one big problem is too, the more that somebody professes something, the less likely it's probably true. The people who are trying to convince you the most of something probably have the least of that quality they're trying to impress upon you that they have.
That's why you see a lot of the successful relationships on Facebook or YouTube with people who are vlogging their lives every day and they're so happy in their marriage. They're the most unhappy.
Yeah, they end up
because they're
on
trying
Netflix.
to convince themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think it kind of goes in line with
someone
the whole,
ends up in a barrel.
It kind of goes in line with the whole prosperity gospel as well. And I hate to say it, I'm a Roman Catholic as well. I think it's kind of the Protestantism idea of the positivity, that overload of positivity. Martin Luther wasn't about that, but then here over the past 70 years, it's changed a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm talking as a guy who haven't been to church regularly for a very long time. But all the ones that I tried out here, it was either just intensely large amounts of old people and they were all doting on me. It was cool, but there was no community there for me. I didn't fit in anyway. Or it's people around my age and there's just nothing going on. There's no real love of the scripture.
I think it might be also hard too because I've always subscribed to the fact of I'll go to church when I feel like I need to go to church. If I've accepted him as my savior, I grew up Baptist. Which my wife is Catholic, so I've heard that that's not a good mix, but it is what it is. But I think a lot of people subscribe to the fact that the preacher, you have to associate yourself with them too. However they speak their word, you have to almost convince yourself that their opinion is right, and they're just another person that read the same book that you did.
Right.
So Paul says in Romans, he addresses the Romans and tells. He doesn't address the Romans. He addresses a church in Rome and says that we are all the same body. So what is the efficacy of the body if the hand is fighting the foot, right? So we can't necessarily get lost in the whole, there are Roman Catholics, there are Catholics, there are Baptists, there are Presbyterians, there are all, we are all, if we follow, we keep it simple. I talked about this last week. As long as we keep it simple, we follow the scripture and we don't read the scripture just to try to find ways to get out of doing the right thing or finding how we can manipulate it in our favor.
It's not a magic box.
It's not a magic box. We read it to find what God favors. And as long as our heart is set on doing that and we find a church and a church leader that is doing that same thing, then we find a community that can strengthen our faith. I do really feel like having a church community is paramount to keeping us on a path because narrow is the path right to the door of righteousness. And right now we are in times where that path is wide as ever.
Right.
That path is wide as ever, and people are just oh well, we can do this and we can do that, and this is like almost essentially almost a Protestant New Age Christianity catechism, unspoken catechism is actually being thrown out, and people are just making their own interpretations. And now we're at a point where it's oh well, now we can pick our genders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we're in a day and age too where like it's becoming more prevalent that Jesus and God are actual, like real, like they're real. Like it's everything we've been taught so far has been kind of like a mindset or like an ideology, like some people will say, right? Like it's not factual. Well, if the CIA was able to remote view and actually find where the Ark of the Covenant was, and we can physically probably go and get it if they don't already have it, that just solidifies Jesus's presence on earth and that we are his people and that his scripture means so much more now than ever and should be waking people up to that fact instead of making them have this stigma or promote the stigma of being godly people. They should actually not just try and be godly, they should actually devote their life to God and live through that word now, even stronger now than ever.
And what is God doing to the proud? He sent a great delusion.
Exactly.
So a lot of these folks, you know, until they actually, because I mean, you can always. What's crazy to me, dude? Man, I was thinking about this last month, and it's crazy because, like, I was thinking, like, what if hell, like, is all of the fire and brimstone that you think about, but God has actually cursed generations. God is actually not, you know, God is like bloodlines have been cursed because of the sins of the fathers and the refusal of the sons and daughters to repent of those sins and to repent of those curses and to change their ways. They accepted those traditions. So what if hell is actually, you actually are witnessing like the downfall of your and erasure of your entire bloodline while you are in eternity without God. Like that is awful. That would be absolutely awful. Like, what if you get to heaven and you know you're waiting at the pearly gates and you finally feel like, I mean, all of these like post-death experience, near-death experiences and whatnot, you know, they all say almost the same thing. Like, I just felt so much love that I couldn't imagine. I saw these colors that I didn't think were just, I can't describe as how beautiful. I smelled smells I never smelled before. I heard sounds I never heard before. All these people say the same thing. Imagine going through all of that and finally being like, oh my gosh, it is real. And then you get judged. And you don't make it because you refused to just accept learning what Jesus did and learning how to live like him.
Yeah.
I think it also kind of brings up something I've thought a lot about politics for the past decade, which is when I meet a Democrat, I have on the issues, on our value systems, on the things that are actually important and aren't just like the top level media topics, I have so much more in common with them than I do with Jim Jordan or Mitch McConnell, or they do with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. The different branches of the faith have always felt the exact same way too. I have much more in common with the Baptists than I do with the Pope, even though technically the Pope is supposed to be the leader of, you know,
The Catholic Church.
The Catholic Church. So it's just kind of, I think what we're seeing in religion is that same crumbling of the old power structures, and I think people like Joel Osteen are kind of the last breath of that old system in a way. And I think that we're going to see a democratization in many ways of the faith as well as we go forward.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more and more of that.
And what's wild too is like during that whole
That's dangerous,
debacle,
though.
to kind of like tie it in, you know, with like the putting on of a persona of being a godly person. You know, Joel Osteen during the whole debacle.
You want to try that again?
Joel Osteen.
Nope.
Joel Osteen.
There you go.
There we go.
Sorry, I got my list.
Italiano.
My Italiano. No. But during the whole debacle, like, you know, he closed his doors when people around him needed him. Like when his congregation and those people suffering during the hurricane and stuff like that and the flooding actually needed him, he closed his doors. But good old Mattress, I think his name was Larry, over there, was opening his doors, letting people sleep. And, you know, he even admitted, he's like, nah, I've never been to, you know, the church. I've never done any of that. I believe in God. I live through the scripture. I have the Bible in my nightstand and I read it, you know, every once in a while. But, you know, I just felt that it was my calling to open my doors and help these people. But good old pastor over there was like, nope, thou shalt not enter.
They just changed the carpets or something like that, and he was just like, I can't afford for them to be damaged or something.
God knows our hearts better than we do. Honestly, God knows everyone's hearts better than we ourselves know our own hearts. And I mean, that's like goes back to the vaccine thing. There's a lot of stuff that's actually coming out about the vaccine, and you know, like a lot of the anti-COVID vaxxers, you know, I'm seeing a lot on there of them like almost attacking and not being very graceful about folks that got the vaccine. That's not a good look. That's not a good look at all.
Right.
Because honestly, at the end of the day, like I said before, like a lot of folks are just good folks that, you know, really wanted to save lives. They really wanted to help people. They really didn't want to put anybody else's life in danger. And God sees their hearts. God sees if you got the vaccine because you wanted to save lives. God sees if you got the vaccine so that you can show everybody else that you're so great of a person. God sees if you got the vaccine out of a spirit of fear. Like, God knows exactly why you got that vaccine. So when it comes down to it, like, as anti-vaxxers need to stop being assholes, quite honestly, to people that are actually trying to do good things, but just kind of did, you know, what they felt like they had to do, either, you know, one, brainwash, one, coercion, you know, whatever other reason that somebody went and got a shot for.
Right.
Like, we need to give each other grace regardless. We need to look out for each other. You know, if I have friends that got the shot and I was trying to tell them, like, dude, like, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, they shit on me. Quite honestly, shit on me. They called me crazy. And, you know, they talked about me, you know, in the friend group and blah, 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 blah. After that, I'm not reaching out to them like, hey, told you so. I'm worried about them. I pray for them. I pray for their healing. I pray for them to come out of the other side and not have to deal with the effects of that. Like, there's nothing, like, it's okay to not feel good about being right. It's okay to, you know, like shit, dude, like, man, that sucks. Like, I wanted to be the crazy one. Yeah. I wanted to not be right about that stuff. And we need that spirit so that we can bring that unity and that community back together. But it's just so separated. And it's only going further and further apart because of that spirit, that division, that we're being brainwashed and encouraged, you know, to continue.
Well, and that's what politics too.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It's all encompassing. It's all encompassing. It's happening everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not only that, it's the exact reason why it is that way is because when you're focused on each other, you're not focused on the top. The people who are actually making the large level decisions, saying you're going to lose your job if you didn't do, you can't fly, you can't leave the country. Mm-hmm. Those are the people who deserve the ire, realistically. You know, and that's kind of the problem.
Puppet masters.
Yeah, but I think the problem is it's those people feel so far away. I think that's really what the issue is that we're describing.
If you want to see more and get more details about the contaminants and everything else going into the vaccines, head over to truthdisorders.com, hit subscribe, get access to the
red pill.
Get yourself red pilled.
You need another soundbite with just red pill.
Red pill. Bread pill.
Well, we do have a soundboard over here, so
maybe we literally have the most 6 common sounds ever: glass breaking, applause,
a laugh track.
Yeah, laugh track.
But I mean, don't you think, like, we're gonna throw it out on the table? We have about 6 minutes. It's about 6 minutes here. Don't you think, like, this is all pre-programmed to, like, call, like, it's all intertwined? Like, the division is all caused for a reason, right? Like, the reason why they hide things from us, and that's why we are called truth disorders, because we're out to question everything, right? Like, what we've been taught growing up through the educational systems and what media has fed us, it's traditionally been changing constantly with the new news. That's kind of a oxymoron there, but the news that actually comes out daily now. And everything is changing, so our perceptions are changing. We're finding the Ark of the Covenant. We're starting to get, like, these religious artifacts and find these things that are actually making God's presence even more well-known now than ever. And we have big entities at play right now who are fighting, you know, the battle between good and evil, that are wanting to cause that division, whether it's the vaccines or whether it's, you know, politics, right? Like, they want to cause that separation for particular reasons.
Well, and the strategy is as old as time itself as well. In the late stages of the Roman Republic, they actually bonded their political system to the gladiatorial teams, the chariot racing teams, and it went from just, we have a difference of opinion, to my gladiator team, my sports team is better than your sports team, to enhance further the division.
And distraction.
And the reason why was they were looting the treasury, very similarly. When everybody's more focused on those actual issues with each other that don't really matter, they're not focused on the fact that, you know, the political system works hand in glove with each other. The parties are not separate. They're the same people. They're funded by the same people. And the entire point of creating division among the lower class, and the reason why they talk about trans issues instead of, you know, wealth inequality issues with the ability of people to raise their children the way that they wish to do so, upward mobility, what are we leaving behind when we're all gone? Those issues are not spoken about even by the political leaders on the right, because that's not the issue that they want to actually focus on. They don't care. They're looting the treasury too. Everybody is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that could be part of the bigger picture? Like, could this be God's judgment to us? We live in this ecosystem. Let's say we live in the firmament. We live on I'm going to say it. We live on a flat earth under a dome. And this is God's judgment to test whether his people are devoted to living through his word and living his
I've always
his
thought
lifestyle.
that
So is
same
this-
that
so-
same thing.
So that would essentially, you're describing what would be the tribulation. I think what is happening right now, the false light agenda is calling this the Great Awakening. And what the Great Awakening is setting up the world for is to usher in the Antichrist. Now, you will know that by being in the Word and as it spells it out for us.
Right.
You know, as things are happening and prophecies are being fulfilled, this is actually fulfilling prophecy by prophecy by prophecy. So it is actually a light, but is a false light, and it essentially, there will be great wars, and then the Antichrist will, have this peace for X amount of time before I think the temple's built, and I think they're sacrificing a red heifer here, either this year or next. I think it is this year, but the false light, like we are in a false light era. Like Trump is the savior, Trump is the demigod, right? And that and people are falling into this fallacy. Dude, God is giving us chances. God always gives chances. I think about it as as a dad, right? Like I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is not much, if anything, that my kids could do to where I'm going to be like, yeah, dude, I can't. You're cut off. Like, I hate you.
Yeah.
You're
gonna love your, you're gonna love your kid.
I'm gonna love my kid through and through and through and through and through and through. When they come back, I'm gonna love them. And I think that, all I can do for them is make available to them the things that I know and how it might affect them if they continue doing what they're doing. And I think that is exactly what God is doing right now. And he's putting all right, guys, you have a Bible app.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
the
on your
devil.
phone.
The devil gave you phones with a forbidden apple on the back. Okay. Well, here's a Bible app so that you can read on there, since that's the only thing you know how to pick up these days. Like, God is giving us opportunities to come back to Him. We just got to do it.
We should dive into that next week.
The forbidden apple.
The forbidden apple that everybody carries in their pocket.
One thing, a little bit off topic of that, I think Trump is more of like Crassus than he is like a Caesar. He's the last gasp of the system as it exists in its current form. And I think that over the next 2 decades, we will see a very different type of reformation, the very similar one to when the Republic of Rome fell and became the empire. We'll see the same thing.
Do you think that we're going to see a huge political reform?
Like we're in the middle of one,
right?
But the problem is it's such a loose coalition. I think that the late Gen X and the boomers are moderating the movement to a level of what they're willing to accept. But I think that the younger generations are going to go for something significantly more extreme that's not going to be held up by the normal political processes.
I would agree, but I do not agree because Elon is not just some guy in the cabinet. Elon, I would argue, has more power and influence than his own vice president or anybody else in his corner right now.
Agreed.
And Elon is hugely pushing for something that really seems like the beast system.
I don't know specifically about that. I think we'd have to cover that. I think what's probably more important to him is being the first to space. And the reason why is it's not anything other than geopolitical control. Because if you have the biggest satellite network and you put tungsten rods on satellites, you can drop them with the force of a nuclear bomb without nuclear fallout. Mm-hmm. That's just a fact. If you drop I think it's like a 24-ton telephone pole-sized piece of graphite into the ground, you win. You own the world. Yeah. Additionally, I mean, the first person who mines an asteroid, there are asteroids that are within 10 kilometers of Earth's geosynchronous stationary orbit that have more gold than has ever been excavated in the entire timeline of history. Yeah.
Jeez.
But then they could just do it with drones too.
But
or they could just blow up our phones in our pockets and blow our D's off.
My closing statement on this is that I feel like Elon has a lot more influence in that house than is seen to the human eye right now.
Honestly.
didn't he just step down?
Who, Elon?
Yeah.
No,
for
he's,
the
I
head-
think
the
he's
head
got
of
like I think
Doge?
he's got like 23, 45 days left.
Something like that, yeah.
It was like a 180-day term.
I
But
thought it was because he was like, you know what, man? Like, people are getting hurt. Like, it's just like it's not worth me.
Sensible.
Yeah.
But he's already got his claws, his tentacles inside of all of our systems. So mission accomplished.
And I mean, my thing is like, I feel like we're in a race, like we're in a spiritual race right now, and I feel like Elon is probably helping our federal government right now expedite how quickly we can create, build, and generate direct energy weapons.
Dare I say reset?
I would say so too.
You
Like-
know, the quote that I heard that like actually scared the crap out of me was, God, I might misquote whoever said it, but they said they're not sure what weapons World War IV or World War III will be fought with, but I can assure you that the
Sticks and
World
stones.
War IV would be sticks and stones.
Yeah.
It's going to get
I'm
to a
like,
point.
oh,
It's going to
come
be at a point where when that war happens, it's going to happen in a fraction of a millisecond.
Yeah. Well, and then also too, I mean, just going back to the space part of it, if you're the first person who establishes a shipyard in space, and then you're mining asteroids to fund the production of future ships up there, and everything's owned under one corporate umbrella, or maybe multiple corporate umbrellas that you own,
Skynet.
I would like to see the Frank Dodd Act come and break that monopoly up, because that monopoly is now more powerful than every government on Earth combined times 10
Ever.
Yeah.
ever.
Well, and there's a lot of government workers who are now blowing the whistle on what's actually going on in like Antarctica and in these other places under the actual ice, where we're harboring weaponization and creating these weapons that people cannot even fathom.
Like seismic weapons that can be. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
weather
yeah.
they're just now admitting to weather
They're
manipulation.
well, and
like
Saudi
that's-
Arabia uses it regularly to make it rain in the
Yeah.
freaking
Yeah.
desert. So I
Well,
mean,
and that's why I
cat's out of
say
the
like
bag.
if that war ever does happen, we as a human society are probably not even going to realize that we're
It'll just be
we're
over.
toast. It'd just be done.
You guys just explained the advent of the beast system. Thank you.
Yeah.
There it is.
And on that note, you want to close this out, Gary?
Sure. So
Closing thoughts. Closing
thoughts.
each and every day.
So let's end with a prayer. I want to pray for anybody that's watched this. I want to pray for anyone that is going through hard times. I want to pray for anyone that's just kind of lost or just kind of looking for, some sort of light, something to change, the direction of where your life is going. Just I pray that God makes life simpler for you. I pray that God reveals himself to you. I pray that God softens your heart. He eradicates your pride from your life. He removes the worst people in your life and brings in better people in your life. And I just pray that as a brother, somebody that suffers every day along with you in my own way, and from Truth Disorder and myself, we love you. Thank you for being here. And keep continuing to be here, and we hope to see you next week.
See ya.
Nice.
See you, everybody.
Close.